Hello, this is Cotton Stoops, and welcome back to another video. Today's video we're going to be doing a tier list stream video, and this is going to be a bit more ordered, but this is going to also be a stream. For those of you in the stream, this will also be uploaded as a video, because why not? And we're going to be going over three sections of this tier list. First off, we're going to be starting off with the first viability tier, or Loomians that have stayed in the same viability for pretty much from last metagame to this metagame. Then we're going to be talking about the Atlantean City, Loomians, and then we're going to be talking about the rest of the metagame. Now, in terms of what actually stayed viable or not, I need to show you guys the tier list that I've created before. Hello Slayer, welcome to the stream. Hello Convex. This was my previous tier list. Yeah, there's a lot of things that honestly are gonna drop, and I'm gonna show this right now, right here. A lot of things, as you can see, that I want to be ranked, and a lot of things have mainly fallen down, but mainly some notable aspects have risen up. So before I actually talk about the new stuff, I think I should address the stuff that has not changed so much and has stayed in the same tier. No Convex. I think I'll just do this by myself. Oh, yay 100k. Nice. Alright, Zulong. Actually, Zulong, I don't think I think I'll rank this differently, but as for the A tier mons, oh no, not even Ferglyphiz was A tier last time. But as for the A minus mons, they're pretty simple here. Vesperatu, especially with a bunch of offensive cores that are gonna be revolving around Cleone, Dokomori, basically things without recovery. Vesperatu slapping those items down is still going to be useful. Vesperatu still has a decent speed tier, and a part of very robust Dokomoris, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Vesperatu gained no new walls in this update, so Vesperatu still solid. Cosmere Unleashed, like Vesperatu, Cosmere with the specialization ability didn't gain any new walls, but so it's also going to be staying here. Icicle, a lot of offensive playstyles are going to be used, so Icicle is also going to be staying in the same tier. But many things like new ancient types have been able to rise and are pretty good to being able to stop Icicle from actually being in the higher echelon of tiers, so it's staying in A-. Holvantic, I've debated about putting it in the A tier, but in my opinion, there's far more consistent wall breakers, and it's pretty much forced to run boots nowadays in order to actually outspeed the water type competition, which is going to be bad for it. So it's staying in the A-. Stratosaur, I think I already explained it already, but Stratosaur, it's going to be able to solidly check some of the new water types and the new Loomians, mostly the new range attackers that have came out, so Stratosaur is going to be good. Now onto the A tier, there's going to be a lot of competition for like fire types now, but mainly Ikuzune is going to be triumphing over all of them. The main reason why it's not in the higher tiers, especially when this is a mainly water type focused update, it's because Ikuzune still has its same problems as it did before, and it's kind of forced to like run faster personalities and items in order to actually outspeed stuff. Yeah, Obsidian also has been running Earthquake. Alright, let me check the chat because, yeah, I have not been looking at it so far. Nova Diaz, I'll talk about it when I finish summarizing everything else. Yeah, Mohaimin, we're going to be ranking the soul bursts from their separate forms, because some soul bursts such as not Valkyrie, what did I say? But some soul bursts such as Stratosaur, it's still pretty solid with like ignoring its soul burst, so yeah. Dokomori Ikuzune Tatab. Okay. Reset. Yeah, you can reset the VIP. Yeah, Charonix is in Ubers. It's pretty much confirmed now because, like, tournaments such as the MZKaze's tournaments already banning it. So, it's Ubers officially now, which is nice. And yeah, I don't think I need to explain much here. Yeah, I don't need to explain much. Alright, now, let's go into the Atlantean City Part 2 Loomians. Okay, first off, alright, I kind of want to go controversial take right off the bat, but let's just start off with simple takes. And that is Soulburst Dakuda in the A+ tier. Soulburst Dakuda, other than plant types, it has a lot of... Oh, yeah. That's true, convex. Alright, back to Dakuda. Dakuda, overall, looks to be a very strong wall breaker in its Soulburst form. Other than plant types, there's not anything that would want to take its a range of hits. And because Dakuda has decent enough HP and defenses, it's going to be able to set up on a lot of threats. Like Dakuda on its own, it's going to be breaking Vanillin, Pyrolin. As for the probably the most common range tanks as of this metagame, it's also going to be breaking Cleone pretty well as well. It also breaks Garg D, so it's really great. You're kind of forced to run a plant type now, but originally you kind of were in the previous metagame. But if you're forced to run some kind of plant type in order to resist most of its coverage. So Dakuda A+, it seems very good. Yeah, adding on to what Panzer said, yeah, Dokomori is the only consistent thing that can able to wall it. Yeah, Jalusa also, I'll get to that in a second. So yeah, Dakuda is also pretty good. Also, I want to address this now before anything else. Slapdown's not that great on Dakuda, mainly because one, it's not Gargolem attack, so it's not going to be dealing a lot of damage unless you're invested into, and if you're invested into your melee attack heavily, that's not really that great. And most plant types, besides Tatab and Baneki, they actually take Slapdown really well, so that's pretty good. Oh, hey Sura. Hello. Hehe, AoE. Oh, Slapdown's getting nerfed? Yeah, adding on to that, yeah, that adds on pretty well too. Alright, let's talk about... I kind of want to talk about Jalusa, but let's talk about Dokomori. So, Dokomori, if I can find it, looks to be a very solid Loomian for offensive teams. Obviously, Dokomori is not going to be doing a lot of things for like bulkier, semi-stall, stall teams. Besides, yeah, it's really not going to be doing much because it doesn't have recovery. Its defensive typing is kind of iffy for stall teams, so it's not going to be completely loving it. But other than that, Dokomori has a lot of good traits for offense. One, it has Water Absorb, so it's going to be able to stop Loomians such as Barblast, Dakuda, Deldrix pretty well, and it has a lot of pretty good moves to run. You have Icicle Traps, which overall hazards are still pretty good in this metagame, just pretty good for applying offensive pressure. You also have Baffle, which is going to be very good, so you can actually get in your wall breakers into the match. So Dokomori looks to be pretty good. Yeah, Dokomori is pretty much a balanced or offensive type Loomian. And the main thing I'm not putting it up here is because one, it doesn't have recovery like I said, and ice types. There's actually quite a bit of common ice types that are going to be in this metagame, like Wintrix, Glaciadia, Novadius. It's going to have competition there. So I'm just going to be putting it down here for now. I might move it up later, but Dokomori looks to be pretty solid. Hello Rocket PTR, welcome to the stream. Hello Ash, welcome to the stream as well. Alright. Why not? Let's do Arceros. Arceros? Arceros doesn't have the coverage in order to actually beat a lot of walls. Like, its coverage right now is like, in terms of melee attackers, melee walling walls like Obsidian, Barblast, like, it's only going to be able to break through Obsidian, so that's not going to be too great for Arceros. But it does actually have solid niches. There's quite a bit of ancient types that are going to be ran in this meta, like Vespratu, Ursul, and probably the two main baffle users other than Dokomori that will be able to be used on offensive teams, like Icicle and Ursnack, which I'll probably mention later. But so it does have a solid niche on that. But the main problem with Arceros, other than its lack of coverage, is it also lacks a pretty good speed tier. So while it does have the ability to actually check and hit stuff super effectively in this metagame, with its coverage combined with like its low speed tier, it's going to be able to get abused pretty quickly by swapping in and just revenge killing overall. Yeah, and Arceros doesn't have a good fire stab. It has Flaming Kick. I'd consider moving it up if it like got a better speed tier or if it got better stabs, but overall Arceros doesn't look that great in this metagame. It's still pretty solid though. Alright, yeah, let's talk about its ice type counterpart. And Glaciadia looks to be also another really good Loomian along with SB Dakuda. Not just because it's a wall breaker, but it has like on its own, Glaciadia doesn't. Or hi Lord Ribs. But anyways, Glaciadia looks to be really strong. If you've done calcs with Nimble Ice Essence and Chilling Passion, there's not a lot of walls for Glaciadia. There are only a very few walls for this, and it's pretty much fire types. You have Pyrolin, which kind of gets ruined if it palms on the swap. It's not going to be able to get past this too much, but Pyrolin still helps with it. Serenite also resists all of its coverage besides what? Yeah, it resists all of its coverage, so it can still provide a solid check to Glaciadia. Very clever forms of Crackle, although it's not going to be doing much back. Glaciadia overall, it looks to be pretty strong. There's not much walls for it, and the walls that I did say, they're either one, they're not viable at all, or at the very least, they have a lot of problems. Pyrolin being a great example of it. A lot of Loomians hit it super effectively in this metagame, and overall, things can break through it a lot more easier, so Glaciadia looks to be pretty strong. There's a couple of problems that I'm gonna like put it down for and not putting it in the S tier, and that's mainly because of the multiple light types that are in this metagame that right now that can just threaten this out pretty easily. Glaciadia is also pretty weak on the melee defense side, so it can get revenge killed by priority moves like Vespratu and Ursul if they have them. But Glaciadia, at least in my opinion, it's going to be paled in comparison with its Fire Ice type counterpart, not Arceros, Novadeus. And yeah, adding on to what Key said, Glaciadia is nothing like Wintrix. It's like Wintrix except a good speed tier and actually better coverage and better, stronger powers. So yeah. Adding on to what you said, Daron next. Arceros could get Thunder Chomp or Earthquake, but the problem, and Drudge as well, but probably the most awful thing about it is that Novadeus is going to be getting it also. So not only will Novadeus will potentially outclass Arceros in its role, but it's just going to be doing a lot better than Arceros. Also, I'm probably not going to be putting anything in Ubers because, one, there's not enough testing, and two, it's all just on paper. We're not considering in practice levels of stuff. All right, Eric. So I'll leave out Novadeus and Uber. I'm personally of the Uber advocate, but I'm gonna keep this in S for now. Alright, anyways, like Glaciadia, it doesn't have much walls, but unlike Glaciadia, it has no walls. And the most terrifying aspect about Nova Diaz is that while mixed sets aren't definitely the best, they still do exist, and even without mixed sets, this thing is practically unwallable. You have to resort to Loomians like Seer Knight, to Loomians like Seer Knight, which overall aren't great in this metagame, but you have to resort to Loomians like this in order to stop Nova Diaz. There's also other sets you can form to run to check Nova Diaz, like very clever Luxors. Don't ask how I know that, it's horrible information. But basically, in order to stop this thing, one, you have to use a bad Loomian in order to stop it, or two, you have to use some funky, unviable Loomian or set to actually stop Nova Diaz. Nova Diaz has a great speed tier, so it's not going to be being revenge killed that much. It has good enough power on both sides of the attack to actually break through walls. It has great coverage, so it's going to be S tier. It's pretty much undeniable at this point, but one thing I can say is that if there would be an argument in order to stop Nova Diaz, or like for Nova Diaz, it would be Glaciadia is just as good at it, but on paper, Nova Diaz looks much better in my opinion. Yeah, I have no idea why you can canonically teleport to your Arnada. Yeah, yeah, that's right, small genius. Valkyrie is... I don't know. I'll talk about Valkyrie later, but let's finish the Atlantean Part 2 Loomians. Let's talk about... Yeah, we finished the dragons. Let's talk about... Why not? Let's talk about the other Dakuda form. Now, I was initially hesitant on this Loomian, but I think it's... Right now, I think it's pretty good. I think it's... Like, I've heard pretty good comparisons to regular Dakuda and Soulburst Dakuda, and that it's kind of a side grade. Regular Dakuda still has a lot of great aspects about it. One, its melee coverage is great. You're going to be able to stop Loomians like Tundrolin and Obsidian, Soulburst Krakaloa from being able to wall you. And while you do get somewhat walled by, I'm pretty sure spirit types, like... Oh no, yeah, because spirit types, because you don't have Gamma Pulse. You're going to be able to get somewhat stopped by Icicle and Your Snack. But the funny thing is, this thing with Bulk Up hits too hard that Icicle or Your Snack can't deal with it completely. Yeah. Yeah, Florian. It has good abilities. Brute Force has great stabs, or like great stab. And it just has pretty good move pool. It also has access to Slapdown, so it can play a very good utility role on your team. And it just hits so hard. Boost Icicle? Wait, what do you mean? Like boost Icicle another tier up? Well, the thing is with Immaculate Vibes, the thing is with Soulburst Dakuda is that it can get revenge killed very easily. And because of its like 70 base speed in this metagame, you're only going to be able to outspeed walls and some offensive Loomians like very brawny Borox. A little higher. This tier, the tier list isn't ordered. The tier list is not ordered. It may seem like it, but the tier list is not ordered yet. Hey Brittany, welcome to the stream. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. It has a decent speed tier as well, so it can form as a wall breaker or a cleaner or a sweeper. This thing does a lot, basically. Let's talk about another Loomian like this. Let's talk about some of the Soulbursts. Soulburst Eruptodon, I initially think this was, like, on release, I thought Soulburst Eruptodon is going to be the best one. It's going to be the, like, I initially thought it was going to be the best Soul Burst, but after, alright, see a small genius. But after some further inspection, Soul Burst Eruptodon doesn't look to be like what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be up here. In fact, this was my first impressions if you were in my Discord server, but overall, Soul Burst Eruptodon, to me at least, doesn't seem that great. And my main reasoning for this is that there's a lot of resists for its stab. So first off, it's very easy to stop this thing, or to at least offensively check it. There's a bunch of water types like Cleone, Jalusa, Luminami that can be able to swap in on its most important stab. There's going to be quite a bit of air types in this meta, so Landslide will be able to get, like, it's going to be able to get, like absorbed. And Dark Surge, while there's admittedly a pretty good coverage move, there is some ways to play around this. And overall, its coverage, while yes, it's unwallable, there's still offensive ways to play around it. And that leads me to my second conclusion, which to differ Soul Burst Dakuda and Soul Burst Eruptodon, that unlike Soul Burst Dakuda's coverage, or unlike Soul Burst Dakuda, Eruptodon can get revenge killed very easily, and before its Soul Burst transforms, it's going to be getting hit first. Because it has a pretty bad speed tier before Soul Burst and even after Soul Burst, what most likely, unless you swap in Eruptodon on like an ice type, it's most likely going to be taking damage. And once it's Soul Burst, it's obviously not going to regain that damage back, or regain that loss of HP back. And that overall means Soul Burst Eruptodon is going to be much more prone to be revenge killed than Soul Burst Dakuda. It's overall not going to be that great. Yeah, base 80 speed. There's going to be a lot of things outspeed this. Let me just run through the 2B ranks. You have Grabtana, Jalusa, Stratosaur, Pronsu, Terridescent. Actually, yeah, not Terridescent, but it has Drudge. Shachi, Gargolem Attack, Tatab, Zulong, Baroglyph, Eclipse, Namare, Ursul as Priority, Phagenaut, Elephage, Garbantis, Imperior, Dorogo. Yeah, you get the point. It gets outspeed by a lot. Yeah, so yeah, Moriel has Jolt too. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be that great. Overall, it's just on paper. We may not even know, but it seems like another Loomian that has been in the previous metagame, and that is Shachi, where Shachi hits really hard, just like Soul Burst or Eruptodon, but they both have somewhat middling speed tiers, and for both they have bad, and they have like common weaknesses. Like there's gonna be a bunch of earth, water, and air types in this metagame, and overall the damage ceiling, especially when you're considering like these top 4 Loomians in the tier, the damage ceiling is so high now, so unless you're invested, it's not gonna be that easy. It's gonna be being able to get revenge killed so easy. Yeah, it's still a solid wall breaker, so A- is where I'm putting it. Alright, let's talk about another Soul Burst. Soul Burst Gasstroke. Honestly, it's gonna be... Well, here's the thing. Soul Burst Gasstroke, even with Stratagem and its boosted range defense stat, it's still gonna be somewhat easy to take advantage of. It's going to be still somewhat passive because Mind type, as good as it is, it's not going to be that good on its own. And because Gasstroke doesn't have Peace of Mind or something, that range attack stat is not going to be helping that much. So Gasstroke 140, 140? No, it's 140 HP, 140 range defense. And it's still going to be prone to melee hits like Vespra to Ursul. The same things that still makes Gasstroke bottom tier still exists. But adding on to what Panzer said, it has great ability. You are able to stop fire types with the exception of like... Yeah, you're able to stop so much fire types and ice types now. With the exception of Glaciadia and Windtrix and overall like melee ice types, you're gonna be able to stop them. Fire types as well. Most ranged fire types, you're gonna be able to stop them. And that, in my opinion, makes it at least A-. And overall, Gasstroke Soul Burst is easy to slot in a team. It's easy to build around with. It has really good 2 immunities to Light and Electric, which are the 2 most common pivot moves in this game. So like a Gasstroke against pivot teams or offensive teams in general, it's gonna be pretty good. Gasstroke is Palm, alright. I mean, yeah, I don't think it changed that much in this tier overall. But was that a new move or something? Yeah, Umbrat also kills it. Like the same things from before still stops Gasstroke, but because of its great ability and like the amount of things it can check pretty well, I think it's gonna be solid in this metagame. Let's talk about another one. I kind of want to breeze through like most of this because it's been a pretty long stream, like based off the stuff I've ranked. So let's go over Pronsu. Pronsu is also similar to Shachi in a way where it hits really hard, or it doesn't hit as hard as Shachi, but it still hits hard, and it can still force, and it still has like a lot of pretty good matchups against the metagame's common ranged walls. You're gonna be able to threaten out Pyrolin, Cleone, and so that's gonna be pretty good for you. But my main problem with this is that it still has somewhat wallable coverage. You're still gonna able to get checked by stuff like Soulburst Stratosaur, and overall a bunch of water types can still swap in on you. And probably the worst thing about it is its defenses. And because of hazards being so common, your clutch ability is most likely, unless you play around hazards very well, it's most likely not going to be doing that great. Like its clutch plushie or its clutch ability won't be proccing too much. But it's still pretty offensive enough. And it still overall hits pretty hard. So I think I'll let it stay in A-. I might drop it down, but I think A- is like pretty much the best it can go. Moriel? Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Why not? Okay, Moriel. Now, as far as my testing goes with Moriel and like overall calculations on and on paper, Moriel defensively is able to stop quite a bit of walls. Like its matchups against stuff like Barblast, Obsidian, Stratosaur, Pyrolin, Vanillin, Vanillin as well. Because of its Luck-of-the-Sea ability and because of its defenses, this has great matchups against a lot of offensive and against a lot of defensive Loomians. But the thing about Moriel is, unless you're like using it on like, where am I going with this? But the thing about Moriel here, it still has a pretty abusable speed tier. It's one of the most slowest things in the game, and like its defensive typing, while it may seem good, when it can like check very well stuff like Vesperatu, Halvantic, and Ursul, it still has pretty common weaknesses. Let me just look this up pretty quickly. But for Moriel, you're gonna be weak to a lot of common typings like Earth, Light, Fire, and Water. Fire types, you got Novadius, Ikazune, Eruptodon, Pyrolin. For light types, there's going to be a bunch of Flash and Fleas in this metagame. And Earth types, overall, it's still a pretty offensive type that you still have to watch out for. But I think it's still good enough in its role as a Loomian that can take advantage of defensive Loomians, set up and break them, as well as checking and pretty much hard walling like Halvantic and some other dark type threats. Because like keep in mind that this is the first bulky dark type we've got, and it can solidly check like Vesperatu and Ursul. So in my opinion, I think it's going to be pretty solid in the B+ tier. Its speed tier holds it back, and its defensive typing sucks as well, but I think it's pretty good. Yeah, it also does hit its weaknesses back for super effective, so it's gonna be a pain to deal with. I'll do Ferroglyph after I do the Atlantean City Part 2 Loomians. Charonix is in Ubers because it's pretty much confirmed now. Like tournaments are now banning it. DMZ Convex's tournament. A little too late, but hey, it's still being banned. So, do Soulburst Stratosaur? Sure. Soulburst Stratosaur, I think it's just as viable as its tank counterpart, but for different reasons. If you like during my my analysis or in preparation of Soulburst Stratosaur video, Magnify Soulburst Stratosaur breaks through a lot of stuff. While you're not going to be able to like 1v1 Pyrelin or other fire types, you do have the ability to hit them super effectively, and because your speed tier is so good and your range attack stat is like, what is it? It's like 132. Let me check. It's like your range attack stat. Yeah, it's 135. So this thing has great immediate damage. It has the speed tier to outspeed a lot of things. That makes it a pretty solid cleaner that hits hard. It has pretty good matchups against the walls. Like, if your defensive backbone now is something with a fire type like Pyrelin, Stratosaur is going to be a huge threat against you. Hello, Joshua. Well, for now, I'm gonna keep it Ubers because one, there aren't any tournaments testing on like its Uber viability, and overall, it still hasn't got its nerf yet. But I'm keeping it in Ubers just for the sake of like no arguments. Yeah, it outspeeds the current Zulong set. And yeah, electric types it's still gonna struggle with, but alright, guys, the current topic here, I made this graphic for a reason. This, after Atlantean City Part 2, I'll be able to rank everything else. Yeah, Sans Novidius is pretty insane. Alright, Cleone, well not. Cleone, as admittedly as it is, it has like admittedly in terms of how much stuff it can solidly check and wall, it still has like Loomians that can hit it super effectively. You have like Halvantic, Ursul, Vesperatu, Eruptodon, Ikazune, Deep Freeze, Glaciadia, and Novadius. I think it's pretty solid, mainly because of the far and near enchantments. Not only can you tank hits from all of these guys once enchantments are up, not only are you can actually tank hits from these guys once enchantments are up, but you support your team with those enchantments. And that's pretty good because Cleone is gonna revive offensive teams basically. Hyper offense, while the death of the HO leads are still here, Hyper offense is gonna be so much better with Cleone around. It's gonna enable a lot of wall breakers and the stuff like Soulburst Eruptodon, Ikazune, Pronsu, Shachi, all the frail wall breakers under enchantments, it's going to be insane. Also nice, Ja. Yeah, and yeah, Icicle does have the ability to take Cleone on. Why is Halvantic A-? Halvantic, I kind of want to put it up here, but because you're forced to because there's so much stuff to hit this super effectively now, you're kind of forced to run Boots in order to outspeed them. And while Boots is a good set, you lose the ability to be able to break walls such as Obsidian and Barblast more consistently. So once you remove Bulk Up, it's kind of hard to break through those stuff. So I'm going to be putting it in A- still. Yeah, Terradescent. Terradescent is also another solid Loomian. Yes, you do. A lot of no, yeah, but if you, what I'm saying is if you run bulk up, you're not going to be able to outspeed like a lot of the metagame. And there's a lot of water types that can hit Halvantic back. I think it's still solid though. A- is still a good tier for it. Yeah, but yeah, I guess. Why would you? No, I'm saying that both bulk up and boot sets are still viable. I'm just saying Halvantic's speed tier is starting to get a little worse, especially when a bunch of offensive Loomians hit it super effectively. And if you want to have good matchups with those offensive water types, you're going to need to run boots. And if you don't, and if you do run boots, you're losing your ability to wall break much more easier. Yeah, alright. Okay, that's a pretty good point. Yeah, fine. I'll just put it in the A tier. Alright, finally, I'll talk about Terradescent. Shrimp Pass, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Terradescent had, because of its defensive typing is actually pretty good, and because of Drudge, you are able to break through some pretty good threats. You can break through Yursnek, Icicle, Obsidian pretty easily. You also have a really good defenses, and while your range defense side isn't the greatest, your melee defense side is plenty enough to start setting up Drudges. And that makes Terradescent pretty good. However, I will say this about Terradescent, it's going to, with any slow Drudge user, it's going to be hard to use. It's going to be hard to start sweeping with it off the bat. So I think A- is a good baseline of it for it, but actually nah. I'm moving it up. It has a lot of solid matchups against walls, and you're kind of forced to run Loomians like Bar Blast for it now. Yeah, I'll put it in A. Hello, Dot. You just missed half of the Atlantean City Part 2 rankings, so yeah. Yeah, honestly, Obsi might run Mega, but I'm big for like the light types. For the light types right now, and the plant types. Not the plant types, but mainly the light types. But I'm personally gonna run Earthquake still, mainly because it still has decent matchups. I wanted to beat Halvantic with it, so. Hello, Lee_legend. Welcome to the stream. Alright. Shrimpost. I think I'm gonna put it in the B- tier. I don't think it's quite unviable just yet. I'll need to do some more testing on it because I'm gonna be real with you guys. I've been testing this thing out, and I've been testing this thing out in theory crafting and all that stuff, but Shrimpost looks to be so bad in this meta, man. It looks like, first off, speed tier is horrible. Second off, so much water type competition now, and you're fully evolved. While they play different play different roles, it's so much better, miles better. So I think I'll just put it in unviable here. Hey Ashton, you haven't played PvP? Well, this is a good time to start actually, because the meta is starting to become, yeah, bad HP too, but the meta is starting to become pretty balanced with all the playstyles, so anything can work now. That's the best part about it. Hello Master Zero, welcome to the stream. I just finished talking about Shrimpost. Right, let's talk about something else that's actually nice. Crabtana. Imagine Crabtana like Nevermare, except it has it has a lower baseline because of how frail it actually is. Or not frail, but of how its defenses are compared to Nevermare, but it has a higher upside because of Drudge. That's basically Crab Tana here. So yeah, why not? Soulburst Florent. I think it's out of the unviable tier. It still has it's not as like it's not as passive as it once before. If you still want to run Stallant sets, those are still viable as well. But the main thing with Florent is that there's a lot of things super effectively that can just hit it. So much fire type, so much ice type coverage in this metagame. So it's going to be having a lot of trouble with that. And not to mention that Bug overall is not a good type in this metagame because of Icicle traps. And Florent, without... I don't think it has Rejuvenate, actually. Let me check. It probably does, but... Florent, it's not going to be regaining that HP back. It's basically impossible to actually do it. Okay, it doesn't have Rejuvenate, but it has Photosynthesis. Yeah, it has Photosynthesis. Yeah, guys. I know. Okay, god dang. But it's still... I think I'm gonna keep it in the B- now. The current topic is Atlantean Part 2 Loomians. Cosmior, I'll talk about after Atlantean Part 2 Loomians. Alright. Jalusa is also another solid A-tier mon. The thing with Jalusa is that, or actually, Jalusa, it's not just because it's hard to wall this thing. You would have to use Sponge Dokomori. You're gonna have to cripple this with Vanillin. Stratosaur somewhat, not really. Stratosaur doesn't really do that well against it. There's not really a lot to stop Jalusa. But the main reason I'm putting it up here is that because it pairs well with a lot of offensive Loomians. In terms of offensive Loomians, it can pair well with. It can pair well with Halvantic. It pairs well with Glishadia and Ikazune. Pairs well with Nova Diaz. It pairs well with Terridescent. It's like Nemare of the previous meta, but it has a lot more favorable matchups because it has water and light as coverage. Yeah, Chartiki does stop Jalusa, but like, it's Chartiki. Actually, no, Chartiki's still decent in this metagame. Yeah, Jalusa's biggest flaw is probably that Luminami shares types with it. And that just means that Jalusa, it's not going to be used as much on a lot of teams just because Luminami has the same type. But I think it's still. Freezy, I'll do Act 3 with you tomorrow. Alright. Okay, is it still? Okay, we're still 43 minutes in. I could reveal my hot take of the meta right now, but I think I'll save it. Alright. Actually, that's the last one. Oh, Weaslin. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother ranking this thing. Ability broke. I'm not gonna bother ranking this thing. This thing is just not worth the time. Yeah, Soulburst Krakaloa is the last one. Okay. Soulburst Krakaloa is not up here, it's down here. Now, let me show you a really good graphic made by my friend Soar when we were talking about Krakaloa's matchups in this metagame. You're gonna love this, but yeah, why not? I'll show you. Let me show you. I just need to upload it here. Okay, here we go. So, in the red tier, you have what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Loomians to hit Spirit and Fire super effectively. Now, for Loomians under that tier, you have Loomians that can cripple it. Whether that would be from poisons, provoke, it cripples it. And for its type that it actually walls, these guys can't break through Lava Fiend. So, if you want the exact numbers, in the overall OU metagame, Krakaloa gets hit by 88% of the metagame, and 80% of, like, yeah, 80%. 88%, my bad. So, yeah. Yeah. And if we were just to talk about the stuff that it can wall, like Hunder, it's not that common. Metatoad, yes, it's alright. It's still pretty good. Seer Knight's not being that used. And Mutagon, it's an Uber. You're not using Mutagon competitively. So, Sober's Krakaloa is B- at the very most. There is what? Yeah, I'm actually gonna put it down here. I'm gonna put it down here and Krakaloa up here. And the main reasoning here is that Sober's Krakaloa, despite it having 121 range attack, it's still frail because 1, it doesn't have Peace of Mind or Magnify, it just has Burn Up. 2, its coverage is severely limited. You are going to be walled by pretty much any light type in the game, and that's really bad. And you lose a lot, of niches that Krakaloa used to have in the previous metagame. In my previous tier list, I praised Krakaloa for actually being good because Raging Flame and very robust sets can cripple Loomians such as Vesperatu, Ursul, Halvantic. But now, with its Spirit type, that's gone. So, it's gonna be put in the unviable tier. Yeah, Lava Fiend should have put... It should have stayed. It should have stayed. It should have stayed Pure Fire. Or at the very least, like... Fire Ancient. Not really. Fire Ancient still has some weaknesses here. But yeah, that's the final. That's the finale, guys. That's the finale of the Atlantean City Part 2 Loomians. Now, time to do the rest of the metagame here. Jamie did not cook. Jamie did not cook. Yeah, Lava Fiend gets walled by Ancient, so... Alright, I need to pull up my tier list because I made the tier list before this in preparation, so I'm not constantly hesitating in what I'm actually gonna be putting in what tier. But let's start off with the obvious. Zulong, of its previous A- spot, it is clearly an S tier Loomian. Not only did it so much water types, like, has been able to stay in this has risen in this metagame. You have Jalusa, Cleone, Pronsu, Dakuda, SB Dakuda, and regular Dakuda. You also have a bunch of ancient types that have been released in this metagame. You have Glaciadia, you have Arceros, you have Terry. Actually, I don't think it can hit Terridescent super effectively, but you get my point. A lot of spirit types are going to be used now because of offense is good. You have Icicle, you have Vesperatu, you have Ursul, you have Ursnack. And Zulong didn't gain any walls in this update. It only just got better with more coverage, or with more Loomians to hit super effectively. So, Zulong, it's S tier. It's S tier undoubtedly. I'm gonna keep my biases out, but it's undoubtedly S tier as of this metagame. Yep, Dumpster Fire. So true. If only. If only. Let's talk about Ventation. Okay. Yeah, hold on. I'll talk about Ventation after I get off with the obvious stuff. Luminami, think it's gonna Luminami. It's still as good as it was before, but the reason it's not S tier anymore is because there are some things the newly released that are good. We will be able to break through Luminami. You have Novidius and Glishadia. You have Solburst Eruptodon. If you are Water Absorbed Dokomori, which is going to be the most common sets, you'll be able to break through Luminami. New Solbursts such as Gastroke and Stratosaur, they're going to be able to take advantage of you if you're not melee. A lot of things in general are just going to have pretty good, like a lot of meta Loomians are just already going to have solid matchups against Luminami. You have Ikazune, you have Vesperatu, Ursul, Holvantic. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be in the S tier because Luminami is not a size-fits-all Loomian anymore because offense just got so much better, but I definitely still think it's good. Hydralin? I don't know. I think Hydralin is just... I think it's universally agreed upon that Hydralin is just unviable. I think I don't really need to talk about here. Yeah. Alright, let me pull up what else. Alright. Let's put another Loomian in the A+ tier, and that's Deludrix. Let's see. Yeah, Deludrix. Deludrix, I don't know. I actually might put this... I honestly might put Deludrix further down. Yeah, you know what? I will. I'll put Deludrix in the A tier. And my reasoning for this is one, the offensive water meta type, the offensive waters. How about there's a lot of offensive Loomians, or mainly off. There's a bunch. What I'm trying to say is there's a bunch of offensive competition in this metagame now. You have Glishadia, Jalusa, Silburst, Dakuda, Dovidius, basically a bunch of Loomians. They have more attributes than Deludrix. Not only but some of them have pivot, but they provide more to your team with bulk, their defensive typing, utility, and Deludrix as a whole, because offense is rising, that also means more bulkier teams are rising. So Deludrix isn't going to be the monster as it was before in the top tiers anymore because of how bulky teams are gonna get. Also, it gained new walls. It gained Sponge Dokomori, Gastroke. It can't touch Gastroke. Ferroblast is like a 3-hit KO, if I recall. Yeah, it's gonna be in the A tier, but I think it's still good enough. Its coverage is still threatening to the point where you still have to prepare for it. So I think A is still good here. And yeah, the Clutch Plushie set is good. I think the Clutch Plushie set will honestly overtake the Deludrix here, or not overtake the boot set. Yeah, Ice School's even better. So Deludrix, its walls are gonna become more common, so it's not gonna be the juggernaut against as it was before. Your Snack, sure. Your Snack, I actually think very highly on. Which, if I can find it, that would be very nice. But Your Snack, I think it's better than Ice School in this meta. And my main reasoning here is that while both are weak to Ancient, while both are weak to Light, Your Snack has better attributes for offensive teams. You have Slap Down, which will be able to help break walls easier. You have Tank, so you're going to be able to... You arguably have more survivability than Icicle. And you have Priority, you have Heartbreak, you have Baffle, which obviously help more offensive teams, but I think Your Snack's probably better than Icicle in this meta. HO? Why is... Oh yeah, true. Icicle does have enchantment removal. Dang. Alright. Yeah, I'll just put these two together then. Because enchantment removal is going to be pretty good. Why is HR the worst playstyle? Well, it's mainly because Zulong and Dakuda, Glaciadia, Ursul, Deldrix, they're all common Loomians that can just stomp on hyper offense. And bulkier teams are more accustomed to running hazard removal, so hyper offense, it's not going to be getting its hazards consistently up. And of course, it's probably not going to, yeah, it's just not that great. But it's still decent now. You have Dokomori, Icicle, Yursnack, Cleone. It's definitely going to be better than before, but most hyper offense teams are probably going to turn into some regular offense or bulky offense teams. Yeah, smart regular yeah, smart Cephalops is good. Nevermare? Yeah, Nevermare too. Hello Distro and Rocket. Silber's Dakuda, in my opinion, is the best one. Alright, let's talk about something. Yeah, let's talk. I forgot what. I've completely blanked. Let's talk about Garg A. Yeah, Garg A, similar to Deldrix, a lot of fierce competition now. And Garg A's main niche of being able to outspeed a lot and hit hard, I think it's not that big of a niche anymore. Cause you got Deldrix, Dakuda, Nova Diaz, Zulong, Glaciadia, who can all do what Gargoyle May can, but they have more utility, arguably better coverage, and they hit harder either because they're soul bursts, they have better abilities, or they have valuable personalities. Talk about Nevermare. And I think Nevermare is fine. It stayed the same as the last, so I think Nevermare is pretty fine here. Yeah, Gargay and Glaciadia. It's not that good. Bob, you asked how Venolin is. Venolin, I honestly don't have really high opinions on this, but just for the sake of the things, I'm gonna keep it in the B. I'm gonna rise it up one tier for the B+. Venolin, admittedly, Venolin gets broken, basically. It gets broken by a lot of things. But the main argument for Venolin is that most things that are going to be able to break through Venolin at the very least is bartering shackles, so those offensive Loomians like Glaciadia, Nova Diaz, Soulburst Erupt, Gargolem Attack, Pronsu, not Ikuzune, because that doesn't really count because it just pivots out. They're going to be heavily impacted by barter shackles. So one, it's also there. And overall, Toxic is now a better offensive typing, or offensive typing, because there's going to be so much water types in this metagame. So I think it's solid. I'll just put it up in B+. Yeah, that is fair, Prawns. That is fair, Neo. It's definitely not on the consistent side of things, but it does have an X factor and accelerate, so show up, or Cosmere Unleash already talked about. I'll do Tyrex and yeah, Moriel breaks it too. I'll do Tyrex and then I'll do Tyrex and then Umbret. Tyrex, yeah, I think everyone saw this coming. Tyrex is not that great anymore because so much things are now common that can be able to hit this thing super effectively. I'm pretty sure there's only one Loomian that doesn't hit this super effectively that came out of this update, and that's Terridescent. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Terridescent and Yeah, it's just Terridescent. It's not gonna be that great anymore. Glaciadia can't. Oh right, but Tyrex isn't. Yeah, Glaciadia. Aquajaws is Aquajaws Glaciadia. But yeah, I think Tyrex will run similar sets as it did before. I think Very Brawny would probably be it because it still has defensive niches in this metagame. You still have the ability to somewhat stop Terridescent. You can stop Holvantic. Yeah, I think it'll still have solid niches in this metagame, but I don't think it's going to be used that much. And what did I say next? Umbrat. Alright, let's see. Umbrat, I think it's gonna stay in the same tier as it was before, and that is B tier. I'm not ready to move Umbrat down a tier, mainly because Umbrat basically got new things to hit super effectively. And because it has priority dark type, that's gonna be very strong. So you're gonna hit Jalusa super effectively. You basically trap in Gas Stroke now, and that might actually prove to be very strong on teams that are walled or teams that have to work around Gas Stroke. But overall, I don't think it's gonna move up or down. It gained new stuff to stop, but maybe because of the new Spirit additions, it might move. I might move it down, but I'm gonna keep it here in B because it's too solid not to. It's definitely a niche Loomian, but it works on some teams. Oh, Umbrat has Fadeaway now. Umbrat has Fadeaway. What? Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna put it in B still. Yeah, Umbrat's not gonna be hitting hard besides Dark type. Terridescent has Hydro, so it's only Holvantic. That just proves worse to Tyrex. So yeah, let's talk about Let's talk about Sea Drake. Sea Drake, I think it's gonna still stay in its where is Sea Drake here? Sea Drake, I think it's gonna still stay in its same viability tier as before. New water types means it's gonna be hitting a lot more stuff super effectively. Also with the rise of spirit types like Ursnack, Vesperatu, Icicle, I can honestly see this, and I can honestly see this thing moving up. Actually, yeah, wait. Actually, I don't think boot sets actually do outspeed Glaciadia, because ancient types, it can actually hit super effectively. But its speed tier and its typing is still gonna hold it down, so I'm just gonna keep it in B tier. Avatros still decent. No, I don't. It's not decent. I think it's pretty unviable now because there's much better setup sweepers, and at least in my case, there's gonna be a lot of stuff that can stop Avatros, and you're just much more consistent with other stuff. Wendelin, I'll talk about. Wendelin, I'm gonna move it out of the unviable tier and then into the B tier because it got Soulburst Crack is unviable. Why is it? Because of this graphic. Because 88% of the metagame hits this super effectively. It's not that even with 121 range attack stat, it's still gonna be somewhat passive. And yeah, that's pretty much it of why I'm putting it in unviable here. Better sweepers as in Terridescent, Nevermare, Crabtana, Dakuda, Glaciadia. Yeah, I think you get the point here. Boonery. I think Boonery will actually. I think Boonery will actually be pretty good. It's gonna be. I put it in B minus last time, but I think it's gonna be somewhat good now because offense is gonna be a lot more common, and that means that its replicatability is just gonna be a lot more better now because it can potentially reverse sweep teams. It's good. Its revenge killing role overall is just gonna be so much better. So yeah, I think it's pretty solid now. Garlash. Garlash got a lot worse. Not only did one of its best pairs, as in Valkyrie, fell down, but... Oh, hold on. I'll be right back. Sorry, mom was calling, so you know how it is. But yeah, Garlash, it's in the B minus, mainly because one of its best offensive Loomians in teammates, Valkyrie, has fallen off. A bunch of R-type competition now pretty much does better in what Garlash can do. And with the addition with a lot more stronger demand on melee walls, stuff like Bar Blast, Obsidian, Your Snack Icicle, even though it has Primal Slash for these two, it's gonna be sacrificing Chili Chomp to be able to revenge kill a bunch of stuff. So I think Garlash got a lot worse in this metagame. Imperior, it's fine. Imperior, it's pretty much... Yeah, Imperior, I'll just rank that quickly. Because of Resentful and offensive teams being offensive teams, it's pretty solid now. I hate ranking this thing because Resentful is such a cheeky ability. It sucks so much, but it's admittedly good now. Yeah, alright, I'll do Tatab. More real? Oh, I didn't rank more. Oh, right. Marul is in more real, and I'll do Tatab and then Valkyrie. Tatab, I'm not ready to put in the S tier yet. Mainly because actually it gained a lot of new things to hit super effectively, and it gained no walls. But yeah, I'm gonna put it in the S tier. Like I said, it gained a lot new things to hit super effectively. You got Glaciadia and Novadius, along with the two Dakuda forms. You gained Cleone, Jalusa, not Iridescent, Bronsu, all super effective damage. And pretty much its speed tier is a lot more valued now. And because it's gonna be running boots, and most Loomians under and after its speed tier won't be running boots at all, it's gonna be being able to be a pretty strong sweeper, cleaner, revenge killer, whatever you want to call it, in any type of the metagame. It gained no new walls. You still somewhat have Your Snack. You have somewhat such as Halvantic being the only offensive thing to stop it besides what? Soulburst Krakaloa, but we already went over that. It also cripples Krakaloa, so that's not good there. So I think it's a lot better in this tier. Yeah, Pransu can run clutch, but like I said before, you're gonna have to play around a lot. You're gonna play around the hazards a lot, and as far as I know, I think Pronsu doesn't have the ability to able to actually OHKO it. I can do a run. I can run a quick calc here. Yeah, let me show you this, guys. It doesn't have the ability to actually wall Tatab. Or not wall tap. It doesn't have the ability to stop Tatab. So yeah. You don't it's yeah. Jeez. That's a lot. But it will OHKO after Rageful, but you outspeed Tatab. No, Tatab outspeeds you. Oh no, actually true. You proc the Rageful, but like, and Rageful is already a pretty niche item, but yeah, it's yeah, I guess if you want to count Tatab out, then why not? If you want to count Pronsu out, but why not? It's still pretty good. Alright, Valkyrie. Alright, let's talk about Valkyrie. Man, this is gonna be so depressing. Valkyrie, the metagame got so much faster. Base 75 speed tier, it's not good anymore. It was never good. You're only going to be outspeeding like walls now. And while semi-stall is still good, there are Loomians such as Soulburst Raptidon, like, and everything in the A+ tier. And so like Valkyrie's not that great anymore. A lot of things can hit really hard turn 1. Turn 2 they're even stronger. Valkyrie pretty much lost most of what made it viable. The reason why it's not lower on the tier list is because it still stops Charonix and Spec-Meteor. But Valkyrie's not that good anymore. It's B+, still solid, but overall, it fell off. And yeah, Cleone, Walls, Falc. Unless you're running Raging Howl, but you sacrifice Recovery, which is arguably even worse. So, Valkyrie is just done. Yeah, Valkyrie's done. Let's talk about... Yeah, okay, let's stop with the sad music. Now let's talk about something that... Yeah, let's talk about other threats that got better. Ferroglyph, I was initially so harsh on this thing because no one uses this, so most people won't have the ability to like actually give concrete advice or concrete analysis on this, because everything that I've said about Ferroglyph is on paper. But I think it's undeniable now that Ferroglyph is an A-tier mon. It didn't gain any new walls in this update, and you have the ability with Provoke and Deja Vu, so you're gonna be able to stop a lot of offense's main support Loomians, like Dukamori, Cleone, Icicle, and Yursnak. It's gonna be able to... It's basically a really good Loomian against offense. And if you notice, Cleone, Dokomori, Yursnak, Icicle, they're all hit super effectively by Ferroglyph. So, yeah. It gained no new walls. It's very good against offensive teams. I think it's solid enough. It's a pretty solid Loomian now. Idio Talent Trade. If only Talent Trade wasn't banned in tournaments, that would be the main set. Or somewhat of the main set. Let's talk about Ursul. Ursul, I'm much more higher on this now. Ursul is going to be a lot more better now that offense is a lot more better as well, because now Ursul has the ability to hit a lot of these offensive Loomians, at the very least, hard for neutral damage. Tatab, you already hit super effectively. Novidius, Glishadia, you'll hit super effectively as well. I think Ursul is pretty solid in the A tier. It also, like I said, it didn't gain no new buffs. Slapdown is still a pretty good tool to actually abuse. And yet again, we're only stuck to 3 things to solidly wall your soul. Vesperatu, Barblast, and Obsidian. So your soul, I think, is pretty good. Well, no, it's not that your soul outclasses Vesp. It's just I have higher opinions on your soul. Well, I already said legend. I think it's higher. All right. Okay, let's rank Obsidian now. Obsidian, it fell from A to A minus. This is mainly because like a lot of things now have been able to break through there's not a lot of melee attackers that came out of this update. But the things that did and are very good, like Dakuda here, it's able to break through Obsidian. Not to mention, there's going to be a lot of Loomians on opposing offensive teams that can just shut down Obsidian pretty well. You have Jalusa, you have Cleone. Well, Cleone doesn't really do much back, but it sets up screens and it just pivots out. So it's not going to be that great here. You have Terry Descent that also is able to beat Obsidian if it's not running Mega Chomp, if I recall. So there's going to be a lot of things that can break through this. And like I said, there's a lot of Loomians also that can hit it super effectively now. And overall, I think Barblast is much more solid than Obsidian. Obviously, it will be used still a lot, mainly because you can't run Barblast and another defensive water on a team. So Obsidian is going to have its place. So I think it's A minus. Jalusa's role is more of a bulky offensive Loomian that can set up on walls to break through them and provides defensive support. An easy Loomian to compare to is Namare. Except imagine, yeah, it's more comparable to Namare if anything. Alright, Sherbot and Mocho. Mocho, because of the amount of ice type competition and just its role just not being as great as it was before, it's really niche as a sweeper now because there's a lot of boots users, a lot of things naturally outspeed this thing. I think it's in the unviable tier. Same thing with Sherbot here. Sherbot only really has a couple of niches, but actually I think Sherbot's better than... yeah. I think Sherbot's also in the unviable tier. It's mainly because so much things just... No. If Lava Fiend is going up, then Krakaloa is also going up. Because Krakaloa is just better than Lava Fiend. And Krakaloa is also not great in this meta too. Terraclaw is alright. Yeah, Terraclaw is alright. Where is it? Yeah, Terraclaw is still alright. There is something that is... Actually, I might move this down to the unviable tier as well because a lot of things can break through this now and a lot of things just hit this super effectively. You have Novadius, Glishadia, Cleone, and Jalusa. I've run down this top tier list a lot, but I think it's not that bad enough to actually keep it out of B minus or so. Yeah. Namare, I think now there's a big argument here. And what most people on most first impressions, most people have determined the fact that Namare is much worse than Jalusa. Because one, Jalusa has better coverage, better defense, has arguably the better ability to set up palm better, and overall just is more offensive. It's more bulky, it hits harder with setup, it has better coverage, so it can hit much harder than Namare. So there is an argument to be made that Jalusa is better than Namare and that moves Namare down. But I'm going to keep it in the A minus tier. Actually, no. Okay, this is really tough. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in a B plus tier. It's still really good. Like Namare, actually, I'll just put it in the A minus tier. I'll probably regret this down the road, but Namare, like Jalusa, it still works with a lot of offensive Loomians. And it can be more better in certain team comps than Jalusa because of its immunity to Earth. Because you're going to be able to work a lot better with Loomians like Halvantic, better. Halvantic, Ikazune, or Reptidon better just because of that Earth immunity. It also does a better job at stopping Pyrolin and Obsidian. And Jalusa here, well, it technically does stop both of those. Jalusa, yeah, well, it technically does both stop both of those. Namori has recovery, and it's much more consistent in actually resisting both of their coverage moves. So I think it's alright. What's the best Jalusa ability? I think it's generally Incandescent is gonna work is gonna work better, but Enchanted Coat is fine to use. Well, the thing is, well, yeah, Jalusa does beat them all actually. That is a good point. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna I'll just keep it in the A minus. I'll just move it down. Okay. Let's see. Anything else that I want to rank before I get any more suggestions? Let's move down the Loomians that are gonna be in the unviable tier. Because there are some. There are some Loomians here. Tao Shinu also. Mainly because this does not hit hard at all, and its main niche was teardown, and now that a lot of things have hazard removal, it's not that great anymore. It's also be very easily to take advantage of setup. Gets shut down by provoke as well. Another thing, well, what else? Guard is also in the unviable tier. Mainly because so much things can hit harder than it does. A lot of things have better setup. A lot of things bring more defensive attributes to the table than Gargolem. Not Gargolem, but Gardrone. So it's gonna be really hard to use in this metagame. What else? Spectoad, fine. All right, I'll do Spectoad, Fiscarna, and then Protagon, and then Celesting, and then Skellig. Skellig gained duels too. Yeah, also gonna be. When did I put it? Did I put it in the B minus tier before? Let me see. I think I did. Where did I put this before? Yeah, I put it in the B minus tier. Yeah, I'll just move it down. Okay, yeah. What else did... Celesting, I think it's still decent in this metagame here. It actually it can stop Novadius, Glaciadia. It has decent its matchups didn't improve a lot, but the fact that it can stop both of these two and just like abuse them either for recovery, like a pivot, barbs, it still has that niche, but there's like not a lot of things to like about Celesting. I honestly might move this down. But yeah, I'll just keep it here. Metatoad. Some people may argue I should have put this in my pre-Atlantean thoughts, but Metatoad, I think it's A minus now. Not only did a lot of things are able to hit harder now, they also have better defensive niches than Metatoad. And Metatoad gets hit by a lot of things super effectively now. A lot of water types, a lot of spirit types, and dark types now that are able to stop this thing, or to able to offensively check this thing. You also have You have competition in terms of ranged, or in terms of mind types, because you have Shachi and Ferroglyph, Cosmere Unleashed, and Cosmere Cracked. They're all still pretty good mind types. And because of generally, its defensive typing is much worse. Zulong is a free switch, but Zulong just ancient roars out anyway. So I think I'm keeping it in the A minus. Like there's no, like I ranked it in the A tiers. There's no way it's still in that, at least in my opinion. Tyrex did fall off, yes. So the only things that wall it or not, there's no more walls for it now actually. No more solid enough walls, so actually I think I'll just keep it in the A minus tier. Protagon is on the same tier as it was before. It gained new things to hit super effectively, but overall, actually, you gained new answers. You got Dokomori, which is going to be ran on a bunch of offensive teams. You have Gasstroke now, which is going to be able to, which is most likely going to be ran on a bunch of balanced offensive teams as well. It's not going to be doing that great against it, but I think the negatives and the positives pretty much balance each other out, so I'm going to keep it in the B tier. All right, see ya, Ja. Swolder next. Swolder, I admit I had it up in the B plus B tiers because of its niche to wall Vesperatu, Ursul, Tatab. But that niche, while that niche is still there, you do have you gained a lot of things that will be able to hit you super effectively. Like Novadius, Gashadia, Wintrix, Jalusa, Cleone, they all hit you super effectively. Soulburst, Stratosaur as well, Icicle as well. Stratosaur can pretty much take advantage of you at any type and any time of the metagame. And while it did gain new things to hit super effectively in water coverage, actually, it did gain new things to hit super effectively, so it's not completely locked down. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that it doesn't have, its niches is still there, but so much things are able to hit this thing super effective now. So its consistency as a general wall on your team, it's going to be doing a lot less favors than not if you run Swolder on teams. I think it's still viable, but it certainly doesn't have the defenses anymore to actually run mixed sets. It's probably going to revert to very robust sets because you're probably not going to be bothering to run clever now that pretty much any common range attacker now just destroys you. So yeah, Ferroglyph does hit Swolder. What's the best range and melee walls? I think Barblast, in my opinion, is probably the best melee wall, and if you're looking for a ranged wall, you either have Stratosaur, Gasstroke, or Pyrelin to choose from. Let's talk about... Actually, I missed some Loomians, actually. Phagenaut... I'll look up in the stream chat. Alright, that's it. Okay. I'll do Garbantus, Phagenaut, and Joltooth. Right, Garbantus, also like Swolder, it got worse. Because of... But, actually, yeah, it got a lot worse. Jalusa is going to be very common along with Luminami. It's going to be able to stop Garbantus in its tracks. What else here? What else? I'm pretty sure I had this outlook. I had this ranking, so I think I'm just gonna move it down to B tier. The main difference between it and Swolder, I'm making the comparison again, that it does have a good enough offensive coverage and a speed tier, to actually warrant some kind of presence here. It hits quite a bit of the Loomians up here for super effective damage. And Garbantis can take advantage of some melee attackers like Halvantic, Obsidian, Snack very effectively. So I think I'm not ready to put it in the B- tier because it still has some niches and it's overall just better than Swolder. So I'm just going to be putting it in the B tier. Cleone is also a nice ranged wall. Alright, now we got... Now we got Phagenaut. Phagenaut, it fell off. I'm gonna put Elephage here too. I think these guys are too similar in viability to not put together. But because of... Actually, I'll keep Phagenaut up here actually. Because semi-stall and stall is gonna be a lot more better. So Phagenaut's gonna have a lot more niches and uses now that its best playstyle to work it with is now better. But overall, I'm not putting it up in the A tier or A- tier like last time because there's a lot of things that can hit Phagenaut back, but Phagenaut can hit them back for super effective damage as well. It's gonna be a pain to deal with other plant types like Gastruk and Tata, but I generally think it's alright to deal with. So I think it's B+ for sure. Elephage, it's more of the same story except it's less offensively oppressive and it does have Drop of Youth, so it's not going to be like Phagenaut where it can somewhat like abuse melee attackers like Your Soul and Vesperatu. So alright, next up we got Joltooth. Joltooth is gonna be... I'll rank the three Loomians here. C.B.O and Joltooth, they're gonna be on the same tier. If I could find Joltooth, that would be very nice. But Joltooth didn't gain any walls besides... Besides Terridescent. So that's a plus for it. Its defensive typing is not that much better as it was before though. It got worse because new light and ancient types now hit it super effectively. But Joltooth still has no walls, or it didn't gain new walls, so it's still going to be decent. So I think B tier is good enough for it. Same thing with C.B.O. C.B.O didn't gain any new walls in this update, so it's going to be a lot more better. And let me just try and find Joltooth, because it is not up here at all. Yeah, I completely forgot where it is. Yeah, Zaleo. Okay, it's definitely up here, because I don't see it. Or maybe it is ranked. I forgot. It's below Pyrelin? Alright. So I think these guys are in B tier here. Barbadger, I think it's still as solid as it is before. It didn't gain new walls like these guys. The thing is, like a lot of things are now can hit Barbadger not just super effectively, but they can hit Barbadger hard a lot. And when you have Loomians that already just hit pretty hard and they don't proc your Dauntless ability, that is definitely going to be somewhat of a problem. But Barbadger, it still has its same niches as it was before. I don't think I'm going to be moving it down at all. Tyrex? Yeah, so much. It lost its niche now. A lot of things, it's going to have a hard time getting in the battle, and its defensive niches aren't really there anymore. Alright, Snagoop, then Malmerk. I think Snagoop is same tier as last time, B tier. This time, I won't be ranking its Prevo counterpart Snagulp because 1, I don't know how good it is in this meta and I never bothered analyzing it. And 2, it's a Drop of Youth, so... I think Snagoop is still... Well, Snagoop alone, I don't think it gained any new walls besides Very clever Dokomori, and I think Cleone may be able to take advantage of it, but it's not too worthy to actually speak about because Snagoop can just set up poison barbs, whatever, barter it, so it's now crippled, etc. So I think it's still as good as it was before. I actually might move this up because of the amount of things this can now hit amount of the new things it can hit super effectively. Because you got Jalusa, both Dakuda forms. You have Cleone, if I recall. You have Pransu. You have not Gas Stroke. That actually kind of sucks. So, yeah, I think I'll just keep in the B tier. Alright, let's talk about Maomerc now. I think that's what I just said. And then I'll do Shachi and then I'll finish the fossils. So Maomerc, I think it's still okay. Maomerc, I don't think it gained anything new it can wall. But yeah, it didn't gain anything new that it can wall. Jalusa breaks through, Terry-Descent breaks through, Nova Diaz Glaciadia breaks through, Dakuda's it breaks through. Or they break through Maomerc, not the other way around, my bad. You also have more spirit types and dark type coverage to be able to hit Maomerc super effectively. Toxic type is now a much more good Toxic type is now much more of a better offensive typing, so that's also a bad plus for it, or bad minus for it. Gasstroke is also pretty much Maomerc, but it walls more on the range defense side. So let's see. Yeah, too much stuff that got... No, guys. These aren't ordered. They may seem ordered, but these really aren't. Like, they're just meant to be tiers. It's nothing more. So, yeah, I think B is pretty solid for it. Actually, yeah. Yeah, I didn't gain anything new to wall. So much deep freezes and so much coverage. I think I'm gonna keep it in the B minus. Top 3 soul bursts are in order. Dakuda, soul burst Eruptodon, and then Gasstroke. That's just my opinion. Right, let's finish the fossils now. Infernix, I think it's pretty good now. I mean, it wasn't that great before, but stall teams, semi-stall teams, whatever you want to call them, Infernix is going to be being a very good Loomian, a very good fire-type Loomian to run on there. Luminami Infernix, it's a really good core to run on stall teams. It naturally checks a bit of the metagame as well, so it does have that. My main problem with it is that it still gets to take advantage of a lot of these offensive Loomians up on this launch of the tier. But it does have good teammates. It's still good on stall, so I think I'm going to move it up to the B tier. HO leads, they are just hyper off. HO is an abbreviation for hyper offense. Hyper offense is a playstyle where you set up hazards, you let your lead die, and then you start applying offensive pressure. That's basically what hyper offense is. Yeah, okay. So, Infernix, B tier. Anything else? Colossotrops, I think it's also it's same viability as it was before. New water type coverage means more opportunities to swap in. It also didn't gain any new walls in this update, and overall, Colossotrops on offense teams and baffle cores, they're a lot more stronger now. So I think Colossotrops is still in the same tier as it was before. Sure, a lot of ice types are now able to hit this super effectively. Not poison types is going to be a lot more in demand now, but I think it's still as good as it is before. So I think that it balances the negatives with the positives pretty well. Okay, let's talk. I think I'm done with the fossils. Yeah, I'm done with the fossils. Weasley, yeah, Weasley's ability, it's a free trade of items, which is not good at all. You can just cripple anything you want for free. So, yeah. Okay, let's do Ventation. Ventation, and then Shachi. Ventation, the thing is, Ventation didn't lose its role or its main niche as the only water type besides Viscarna to remove hazards consistently. So I think it's gonna stay in the same tier as it was before. Although there is still a lot of things that can take advantage of this. So I'm kind of debating on putting it in the unviable tier just because of so much things can take advantage of it and hit it super effectively. Ventation doesn't really have a role or a place in besides bulky teams where its defenses are more patched up by its teammates. So I honestly might put it down here in unviable, but I think yeah, it has a niche over any of these guys in the metagame. So, okay. Now, no, it has niches. It actually only has one. But hazard mover are a lot more common, and the water type competition is now even more fiercer than it was before. This thing is not getting usage. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it in non-viable. Shachi and then Spreezy. Alright, Shachi, I think it fell down a tier mainly because things got more offensive. Main things got a lot more offensive. They provide more to what Shachi can bring to the table besides coverage and damage. And like I said, its speed tier while its speed tier is admittedly pretty good, a lot of things are going to be outspeeding Shachi. It's still as good as once before, but because there's more offensive ways to stop Shachi, I think A- might be a good place to start with this. Because its defenses are a lot more exposed as well. Because pretty much every new offensive Loomian here now has the ability to like 2-hit KO Shachi. It's the same as the last metagame, but it's even more prevalent now. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much it for Shachi. Spreezy, I'm gonna move it down from the B to the B- tier, mainly because a lot more ice types now, so it's a lot more harsh to actually use. So, and like things in general, it can't run mixed sets or like focus sets as it could before because there's a lot of things that can just break through Spreezy. It did gain a lot more stuff to hit though, that is very fair. But and yeah, there is a lot more waters. I'll keep that in consideration. So Shachi right now gets the ability to hit pretty much a lot of the Loomians in the metagame more effectively, but a lot of the metagame hits it back. It has a decent enough speed tier to outspeed most of these Loomians, so fine. I'll keep it in its A tier spot. Plus, I think it's generally a more consistent wall breaker than Eruptodon, not only because it has the immediate damage output, but it doesn't need a soul burst. And of course, it's already pretty fast. Doesn't need a transformation to actually do anything. For glitched bacon, you have Glishadia, Novadius, Wintrix, and that's like your 3 main ice types that you want to use. Okay, now what did I say I was gonna rank next? Dorogo and then Samurai and Gargdi. Dorogo, I really think high on this Loomian right now because it gained a lot of new things to hit super effectively. A lot of new ancient types, like Loomians such as like many of the Okay, wait. Let me rethink my thoughts here. It it does have the ability to break through some ranged walls. Like, okay, let's think. Let's think. Before I yap something wrong. Well, it's not breaking through range walls. It gained a lot of new things to hit super effectively. So I think moving up from the B plus to the A minus tier is pretty much solid for Dorogo overall. Garg D and then Samurai. Yeah. Garg D, I think it's not A plus A tier good anymore. Because of so much water and ice types now, its defensive typing is not as valued as before. And the earth type and like Garg D on offensive teams is gonna be debatably hard to run this thing. Or like it's there's not a lot of reasons to run this thing over Dokomori besides hazard removal and slapdown. But more offensive teams are gonna favor the pivot, so it's gonna have to compete with Dokomori for that. It also doesn't have the ability to be immune to water, so like I said, it's going to be able to hit for a lot of super effectively. But I think its defensive typing is still good enough to warrant its use. It's not as good as it was before, but I think it's pretty solid enough. Samarine. Samarine, I think it stayed the same as well. The thing, actually, let's think. Because Samurai here didn't gain any new walls besides Repugnant Cleone and very robust Dokomori. And or like water absorb or sponge sets. It didn't gain any new it gained 2 new walls, but most people probably won't be running Repugnant Cleone, so it depends. But it gained a lot new Loomians to hit super effectively, so this pretty much makes Samurai a pretty strong late game sweeper or cleaner. So admittedly, I think it's gonna be A minus as well. So yeah, I think it's gonna be A minus tier as well. Let's do Eclipse. Alright. Okay, let's rank Eclipse now. Eclipse here is, I think it's still a solid A tier. And one thing, and like, it's obviously its immunities are still very good, but one thing I want to point out for you guys is that in terms of what's going to be used on offensive teams, you have Cleone, Icegul, Your Snack, Illuminami, and Dokomori. 4 out of those 5 Eclipse hit super effectively. So like Ferroglyph, while it doesn't have the Provoke and Deja Vu obviously, it's gonna have the ability to hit a lot of the metagame. It's gonna be able to be pretty good against offensive teams. Now that Vesperatsu and Your Soul are pretty much a lot more better now because they didn't gain any new walls, it's gonna have the ability to be pretty good there. And overall, I just think Eclipse is just still the same. It gained new stuff to break too with Gasstroke, although I think Gasstroke still walls actually, so that doesn't really count. Your Snack, Icicle, like I said, it's going to be pretty good against offensive teams, and I think that's where its main viability is going to come in here. So that's where I'm going to put this. Also, yeah, it also does pair well with offensive teams. So, yeah. Arceros's new, like, freeze burn, or whatever, chilling, like, it's, I forgot what the hell, boiling move, it might move it up, but for now, it's B. And plus, I'm just gonna rank it currently. So, okay, let's speed run through a bit of the things here. This didn't really gain any new niches, so I'm gonna keep it in the same tier. Dyborg, at least for me, at the very least, because of tank, its defensive typing, and of course its coverage, it's gonna be able to beat quite a bit of Loomians, like pretty well. It can beat Glaciadia, it can somewhat beat Wintrix with the tank sets. And overall poison coverage, is being able to hit quite a bit of offensive Loomians, namely the water types and the plant types super effectively. So I think it's out of the B minus tier here. Setamars, where did I have this thing last? I think I had this thing in the B or B plus. I think I'm gonna put this in the B plus tier, mainly because unlike Garg D here, it does have the potential and the coverage to actually hit back its water type answer super effectively with Thunder Chomp. It's overall a pretty hard hitting wall, even though it's gonna be missing like 15% of the time. This is still a pretty good Loomian to use against the walls, because while you're not walling, like while you gain less things to wall, most of those things that can break through you, they're not going to want to stay in on you most of the time. So I think that's a pretty solid niche for Setamars here. Billiforge gets hits. I think I'm going to keep Billiforge in the B minus. It gained the new things to hit, but a lot of things can hit this back now. But actually, where is the niche for Billiforge? Yeah, its coverage is still good. I'm not ready to put it in unviable, because for sure it's better than these two fire types here. Serenite, well, no, I'm gonna put, okay, let's put Eruptodon down here because it's not as good as, it's obviously Soul Burst Eruptodon's pretty much better as an upgrade. Let's put the defensive, the final defensive fire type besides Pyrolin. Serenite, I'm not putting it in the unviable tier with these two because it does actually have a pretty few niches. It does have the ability to set up Hards, Drudge, Slap Down. Yes, we've already known that before. But now it has the ability to stop Novidius and Glaciadia to an extent. It can stop... No, it doesn't. No, Hydro Slash does a lot to that thing. So it's mainly only really Novidius and Glaciadia. So I'm not putting it in unviable here. What are you gonna... Oh, Haganash? Haganash, I'm also gonna put it down here. There's really not much use to actually use this when Pyrolin exists. Let's talk about now. Pyrolin has fallen off quite a bit. I think I put it near the top of these tiers, but now that the water types, or no, I'm gonna stop generalizing things here, but now that Loomians such as Peace of Mind, Glaciadia, and Novidius, you got Jalusa, Leone, this also Terridescent, Dirt and a Ferroglyph, what is this called? Bronzu. There's a lot of offensive Loomians, and I guess you can count Raptidon here as well. There's gonna be a lot of offensive Loomians that will break through Pyrolin. It's definitely not the one-size-fits-all Loomian as it was once before. It's still gonna be A minus. It does have solid niches though, and which are being able to check Spectoad. It checks Ikuzune, Wintrix pretty well. It also checks the Eclipse and Shanchi somewhat well. So it does have niches here. But overall, I think Pyrolin has fallen off quite a bit, but not in the place in like the down or the lower B tier areas. Hello, Jollibee. Oh, nice. Nice. Amazing place to eat at. Hydrolin. I don't really need to talk about Hydrolin, right? I mean, it's just outclassed by every water type. Okay. Chartiki, I also think is quite good in this metagame. Not just because it gained new stuff to wall, but it does have the ability to hit back, many of the water types super effectively. It is the only fire type not weak to fire. Not fire. It is the only fire type to not be weak to to water. And because it has Muck Blast and it's Plant Stab, although I don't think you'd still use the Plant Stab in this metagame, it has the ability to stop Jalusa. It does have the ability to stop Jalusa, Cleone, It's somewhat Glaciadia, somewhat. It's not that good at stopping it, but somewhat here. It also still generally does sit and like cripple a bunch of the like some Loomians here, such as like some tanks here, such as Obsidian. Gasstroke doesn't want to be Muck Blast poisoned potentially, or it doesn't want to be provoked as well. It also does have burn up in coverage, and of course it does have the ability to absorb not peace of mind, but Flash and Flee pivot. So it's definitely still has niches in this metagame. The main attribute, the main thing that's bringing this down though, is that things still are able to hit this super effectively and still do at the very least 3-hit KO it even on more defensive sets. Toxic types, dark type moves, they're a lot more common as well. So my gut is telling me to put it in the B tier, but I personally think that you're going to be finding a lot more uses with Chartiki overall. So I think Chartiki here is good. Alright. The best Jalusa ability is Incandescent, but Enchanted Coat works fine as well. Because, yeah, alright. Now, let's talk about, we already talked about Wendelin, Oxydrake, Volcaloa, and Glaciadia. Glaciadia already talked about. And oh yeah, Wobelisk. Alright, Oxydrake, Volcaloa, Wobelisk. Oxydrake, it honestly got a bit worse. It didn't gain a lot of new things to hit here super effectively, so that is a minus here. It also gained stuff that will be able to break this thing. You have, not Glaciadia. Glaciadia is not too concrete of an answer. You have Novadius, Jalusa. You have Novadius, Jalusa. Now both of these Loomians will be used a lot and will be able to break through Oxydrake. You have a Reptidon here, still be able to break through this thing. You also have, what is this name? Pronsu also as well. And while being an ancient type that's not weak to ancient, it does have the ability to hit back ancient types. The thing is, because this is a melee attacker, most ancient types, namely Obsidian, is definitely not going to mind like this setting up on it. Not only can Obsi just body crash with Burrow or just swap, it's not that great here. And of course, its offensive coverage, metal alone is already not that great, but when you combine it with ancient, it's not going to be the greatest overall. You're forced to run Primal Slash for consistency, so it doesn't have great ancient stab compared to the likes of the Draco Beam users. And the only niche it really has anymore is just Driving Force. And which we're going to be talking about with Wobelisk here. Wobelisk has the exact same thing. If I could find it, that would be very nice. Oh, sorry. I am so sorry. I do not even know where this thing is. Oh yeah, it's here. Find it. So Wobelisk here, well, at the very least, it didn't gain any new walls. Oh no, it didn't gain any new stuff to beat it. But except Novadius and Arceros, one of which is better than the other. Also, Pronsu now breaks through this, but I think it's still a solid Loomian. It can still stop setup Loomians like not Totab, but it can still stop Jalusa, Ferroglyph, not Stratosaurs. So it also somewhat stops setup with Teclipse. It's a pretty good answer for Dorogo, and I think Dorogo is going to be used quite a bit in this metagame. So its ability is basically carrying it right now. Its coverage is also still pretty good too. And yeah, Deep Freeze Abuse. It has Deep Freeze as well, so it's definitely not the worst thing that you can definitely use. Okay. Oh, alright. Jollibee asked the question, what is a good Loomian to build around? If you really want an easy Loomian to build around, Glaciadia is probably the most easiest. Not only is it a soft reset, but you can pair up very common Loomians to very common good Loomians like Jalusa, Ikazune, Holvantic, etc., Shachi. Yeah, there's quite a bit of things that will pair very well with Glishadia. And what's the last one? Oh yeah, Volcaloa. Volcaloa, I'm pretty hesitant on ranking this Loomian, but because, well, actually, I think it gained new things to hit super effectively. Coconut Bomb is going to be utilized a lot. It being an ancient type, it can potentially outspeed Loomians like Glishadia. So there you go. It also didn't gain any new walls in this update, which also gives it a plus. Unless you're like running very robust Cleones, which at least that's not that great of a set. Oh yeah, Terridescent stops it. Yeah, I have a Discord server. It's linked in the stream description. So like, yeah, I think it's still pretty solid compared to last time. It gained new stuff to hit super effectively, and overall, it's just a pretty solid Loomian to use overall. Okay, we are nearing the final. God dang, this takes way too long to rank. Right, let's rank the Cosmere forms because they're all pretty similar in viability. Cosmere case, I don't really need to talk about this too much because the Cosmere and Phasenaut combo, or just Cosmere in any defensive Lumion that gets rid of hazards, just discludes any type of hazard getting on the field against stall teams. So regift Cosmere, it's great. It's pretty great. Not the same thing with Cosmere Cracked, but this is still a pretty good Loomian to use. While it didn't actually gain a lot of things to hit that can hit it super effectively, like only really ancient types or ancient moves from Glishadia and Nova Diaz are mainly gonna, and I guess Terridescent too, but it can hit back Glishadia and Terridescent back pretty well. And let me open up the damage calculator to show you how much like it's gonna be taking with the Enchanted Coat set. If I'll find it, yeah. If this turns out to be a 2-hit KO, I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud if it's a 2-hit KO. Okay, let's just ignore that. Yeah. But, yeah. It's still pretty solid in my opinion. It didn't gain any new walls in this update as well, and it's only going to be so much better with the discords, with offense in general. In my opinion, the best Gargolem form is probably Gargolem Defense now. It's the more consistent out of the rest. Couldn't see? Well, the calc was wrong anyway, so there you go. Okay, and yeah, I ranked all the Cosmeors. Let's talk about Tundulin. I think Tundulin is still the same as it was before. Other than Dakut, yeah, Dakuda breaks through this. No, actually, I think you break through Dakuda, like this form, not the other form. You did gain some Loomians to hit you super effectively, like Eruptodon, Nova Diaz, Pransu, but I think Tundurlin will still play a decent role. It's definitely not going to be like as great as it was last metagame, but it wasn't even that great in general. The only niche I see Tundurlin playing like in general is just stall teams, because it performed, at least the common consistent consensus before is that it performed better than Barblast and Obsidian on stall teams. And that's going to be Tundurlin's main case here. And while I think it's definitely not going to be as great as it was before on stall teams, I think it's still similar to its last viability. Alright, Revenine, then Crabtana, it's already in the B+, already explained it. And Cosmic, I would run melee. That's nice, Jollibee. Right, Revenine, let's talk about. Revenine, I honestly don't really like this thing. at all in this metagame. It gained quite a bit of things too. It actually didn't gain that much in terms of walls. It only gained gas stroke. So I think I'll keep it in the B plus tier. I had it in B plus last time, and yes, I'll keep it this time in the B plus. It got new things to it super effectively. Revenine versus offense teams is gonna be a pretty good combo because you can hit your snack and ice ghoul both super effectively. So that's a pretty good plus for you. You have the coverage. Actually, let's think. Let's think here. Oh gosh. You didn't gain any new walls, but a lot of things can still hit you super effectively. A lot of fast ancient type coverage in this metagame. So you're kind of forced to be locked in as a revenge killer, and that's pretty much all you can do. And you don't have immediate damage output even with... No, yeah, you don't have immediate damage output after vengeance, so yeah, I'll keep it in the B tier. Himber? Alright, so Revenine and then Hombre. Hombre, yeah. Revenine, I think it does have Fade Away, but it's a revenge killer. At the very least, Fade Away will be utilized in like... Well, it does give it 4 moves actually, so I guess it's alright, but... Okay, anyways. Hombre. Himber. I think it fell down a tier. I wasn't a big Himber guy before, but now I definitely am not. Because there is now, like, it's like this meta, like what I've been saying has been as old as time. A lot of things now hit Himber super effectively, and its main niches of checking stuff checking stuff offensively with its bulk is kind of now gone because you already have Loomians such as Metatoad, Cosmere Cracked, Jalusa that can all do what Himber does on a spectrum, but they offer more defensive type coverage and matchups. Himber still has icicle traps and mudslides, so it still has that thing here. It doesn't need setup still. It still has the ability to break through cores, but I think this is a good spot for Himber. I think if I were to pick like the bottom 3 worst starter, it's probably Valkyrie, Himber, and then Seer Knight. That's probably my thoughts. Gargolem those icicle traps? No way. I mean, I don't think it'd be using it, but that's actually nice. Alright, Banfino. Banfino's the same as last time. It's just stall Loomian with Scapegoat, dodge Saplant. And it's still good at it. Although defreeze still hurts it, but it still does it somewhat effectively. Also, why is this up here? Let's keep that prevo down. Let's just fill up all the B- tier Loomians and I'll explain them before I actually... Yeah, I'll just explain these guys. Lumel, yeah, I'll keep it here. Alright, so Aeligwana first off. Aeligwana, it still has its niches of stopping Zulong, stopping Ikazune. It still has those niches. But because of the amount of stuff hits super effectively. Yes, I'm saying this over and over. I hate saying it, but it's true for a lot of these Loomians. So Aeligwana, to me, it was already bad enough because Elephage was just better than it. So it's just now in the B- tier. Next up, I guess we gotta talk about Ragoon. Ragoon still has item removal, so it's not completely unviable, but there's a bunch of better slapdown users. The only thing it has over those is Barter and Provoke. So Festifer still has... It didn't gain anything. It didn't gain any new walls besides Cleone, so that's a good plus for it. But there's still ice type competition. It still has its similar wall breaking ability. I don't think it's in the unviable tier because it still hits hard. So B- is where I'm putting it. Lumelo, it's kind of the same tier. It's kind of the same with the rest of these defensive Loomians. Doesn't provide much, but it's not unviable because it does have hazards and somewhat oppressive, somewhat good coverage in Baneful Bash. Right? Akalos, I don't know where to rank Akalos because, like, I know Akalos is worse than Kanibo and Joltooth, and it's definitely worse than Barbadger, but let's see here. It gained, I mean, it didn't gain any new walls besides robust Cleone, so that's a plus for it. Ice type coverage is also pretty nice now. The only problem with Akalos is that its speed tier is still pretty bad, so I think I'm gonna put it alongside with these three melee wall breakers. Yeah, regift Festifer is now good. Alright, Arapagos. These guys are also going to be down in the unviable tier. Mainly just because they don't really have any niche anymore. Avatros, its old niche used to be that it can stop Bar Blast and your snack. But now that offense and mainly a lot of offensive stuff, or mainly a lot of walls now, Dokomori, Obsidian, Icicle, Gargolem defense, they're going to be a lot more common now, and that's going to hurt Avatros a lot. Not to mention that Avatros is a lot worse than a bunch of offensive cleaners, or a bunch of offensive sweepers, so Avatros is not that great. Okay, the reason why Gargolem base is not viable anymore is because Gargolem attack exists. It's Prize of Horror provides more offensive Loomians. No, provides more offensive pressure, not Loomians. I don't know why would I say that. Avatros, if it got Rogue Assault, I mean, realistically, it's only going to be helping your matchup against Himber. Because Obsidian, Icicle are still, and Dokomori, they're still gonna wall you, so it's not that great. I would much rather give it... I don't really know what you can give it because it kind of sucks. It's... Arapago hits more stuff, yeah. So, yeah, I'll just... Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, and then we have Whippledrift. Whippledrift... It's kind of hard to honestly rank this because it didn't gain. Actually, it did gain a few. It only gained Gasstroke Soul Burst as a wall, so that's a plus for it. But the thing is, it's a lot of. Well, it does have the defensive plant type, so it does have the ability to be swapping in on water types now, but most of these water types like Luminami, Jalusa, they have coverage for it, as well as Pransu as well. Its plant type will also be rough because you have quite a bit of dark coverage in this metagame too, from Ursul, Vesperatu, Dakuda, regular Dakuda with Slapdown, Novadius, Glaciadia is going to be dumping on this thing as well. So while theoretically it didn't gain any new counters or any new walls besides what I just said, I don't think it's going to be that great in this meta. It's still going to be solid though. Ikazune, I guess. Oh yeah, Ikazune does. Yeah. Alright, Zeppelin is also another Loomian that has significantly fallen off. Not because like it didn't gain, like it gained more walls or anything. It's just the offensive ranged attacking Loomians. They pretty much have so much better attributes and coverage than this thing. So that brings Zeppelin down one tier for me. It's only these three guys left. Kirlin, I'm gonna put it down here as well. And Fiskarna, it's gonna stay in the... Where did I have this last? Let me see. I had Fiskarna B tier. I think that's... What do you mean Pyrolin dropped? For who? Whippledrift? Yeah, that is fair. But... yeah, that's actually fair. So... But it's... Pyrolin is dropping, but in place of Pyrolin, you're gonna have Loomians such as Gasstroke also rising up for Whippledrift. Or not for Whippledrift, but just for in general. You still have Loomians such as Vanillin that can still cripple it very well. And I mean, Pyrolin, we don't know if it's gonna fall off. Like, I guess like on paper it looks pretty bad, but teams might still use this as their defensive core because it's not like it's not like that this is even worse now. It's not worth using. It's still a somewhat viable role on other teams. Are talking about Zeppelin? Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, maybe I might move it up then. I mean, you already did break Pyrolin previously. You already had Mudslide. Okay, Fiskarna. I think it's also the same viability as it had before. Actually, no. There's a bunch of water type. Though there's a bunch of coverage to hit this super effectively now. And the role of a defensive water type, in Fiskarna's case at least, it's a lot worse now because you have so much Loomians like Barblast, Luminami, Jalusa, Cleone, all competing for a water type spot on a team, so it's not that great. Yeah, Akalos got Rugus ult, so I think it's pretty solid right now. I think it's at the very least B tier. Alright, and finally, the last one. God dang. It has been 2 hours. And the final one is Holly Bunch. And I think I put this in the B tier last time because it had pretty solid defensive niches overall, but it didn't gain its defensive niches are in less value because so much things can now hit this super effectively. Alright. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the Cotton Stoops PvP tier list. First impressions. Definitely subject to change, but I'm pretty solid on all of these Loomians. No, again, Cosmics, this is not ranked. It's not based like the spots. If a Loomian's above another, it's not because it's better than the other. It's just in the A tier. So yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks to Panzer, Cosmic, Void, Janky for sticking throughout the whole stream, Rocket PTR, and a bunch more who are still on the stream. But yeah, thanks for joining. And let's just say, god dang, the peak stream was 63 viewers. That is so much. That is pretty much that's a record for me actually. So yeah, and yeah, as well as Fizzy, thanks for hopping on the stream. It has been a very good ride with you guys. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the stream. If you want to see more, check out the channel. You can see guides on Loomians, playstyles, and analysis videos. This is Cotton Stoops signing off to remind you that Zulong is still a dumpster fire. See ya, guys.